in my hands right here, I have the documents you guys have been waiting for. You guys have been saying, I want to see Mark Bell's blood. You guys want to see my bloodshed? Make sure you watch this video. I'm going to go over all of it with you right now. Okay, so in my hands, I have the work that you guys have been waiting for. I got all the results of my blood work. Also in my hands, I have information written out from the rhino himself, which is all compiled in an email. Before I reveal all the results of the blood work, I just want to share with you guys how you can get your blood work done. And I really strongly, highly recommend, if you're on PEDs, you have to get your blood work done. If you're not on PEDs, I still think it's wise to get your blood work done, because otherwise you don't really know what you're working towards and you don't know exactly how to do it. Once you have the proper blood work done, then you can make an assessment of what it is that you need to do. So here we go. Here's the instructions. Step number 1, go to staneffording.com, which is right here. Bing! Number 2, you're gonna go to shop and you're gonna select, quote unquote, in quotes here, blood test. It will then redirect you. It's important you go to staneffording.com to give him props. It's gonna take you to privatemdlabs.com is where it's gonna redirect you to. Step number 3, select, quote unquote, all tests. That's what it's called. Step number 4, if you're male, you wanna select the Male Athletic Anti-Aging Panel. All this stuff is important because you're not just getting your cholesterol checked. You're getting a fully comprehensive blood work examination, which will give you ideas on what you can do to help control some of the hormones in your body to help steer you in the right direction. Women can choose Female Ultimate Anti-Aging Panel with FNT testosterone. Step number 5, add a vitamin D 25 hydroxy test to the cart. Step number 6, use Rhino as a discount code for 15% off. Who doesn't want some discount off, right? They will email you. Once they email you, you print it out. The site will guide you to the nearest lab. They will email you for the blood to be drawn. The results within 3 to 5 business days. Pretty cool. Let's get back to the matter at hand. I want to first tell you guys that no reason to be alarmed, no reason for anybody to cry, no reason for any sad music, Carlos. At least not yet. My blood work came back relatively healthy. Where we have some work to do is on being more optimal. Remember, I don't have anything to hide here. I've been on performance-enhancing drugs for a very long time, pretty much since I was 25 years old. Came off for a little while to have my daughter Quinn, who's now 12, so you could do the math on that. I was off for a short period of time to make sure that we popped her out in a healthy way. Just a little side note, if you're young and you want to have children and you want to ensure that you can have children, I don't know what the negative side effects of using performance-enhancing drugs are for you, but for me, I was able just to come off them and I was still able to reproduce. I know some of you are on the fence sometimes about it. It's something to take very seriously, and if you're going to utilize PEDs, you're more than likely going to want to be on them the rest of your life. They're very, despite what people say, they are very addicting. It's fun to be strong. It's fun to be jacked. It's fun to kick ass. On the note of performance-enhancing drugs, I have been utilizing a steroid cream. Just a product that I actually put underneath my armpits and I rub it on my balls and I utilize it about twice a day. And that has helped keep my testosterone levels pretty high. For a long time, I was using injectable that I got from a doctor, and that worked great for a long time. But after a while, you get tired of sticking yourself with a needle. Long story short is, the last time I had my blood work done, my testosterone, the last 2 times, it was 750, and then the next time it was 900, because I used a little bit extra of the cream. As I got into the 900 range, the doctor then suggested, he was like, hey, you know, it might be good to mix in a shot once a week. So that's when more recently, just as of a few weeks prior to this going on, that's when I added in a shot of testosterone a week, which was an extra 200 milligrams. And so the results that I got from my testosterone was pretty cool. My testosterone went up to 1,500. So before it was at 900, now it's at 1,500. I'll get back to that in a second, but let's move forward into some of the nuts and bolts of what we got tested. So we tested my hematocrit, We tested like red blood cell count, platelets, white blood cells, all this different stuff. In this case, mine is a little bit high. It's elevated. It's at it's right at the top end of the range. It's at 55. It's supposed to be between 37 and 55. So it's right at that top range, and you don't really necessarily want it to be that high. Now let's go to the notes from Stan Efferding, because Stan Efferding has a lot of experience. I know some of you might say, where's his doctor's license? Where's his this? Where's his that? I trust Stan Efferding very much. I also have other people that I can rely on to communicate with about some of these topics as well, if I need to ask further questions. But here's what Stan had to say about my hematocrit. The slight elevation in hematocrit is normal while on testosterone and does not pose a health risk and does not warrant blood donation, most specifically because his platelets and ferritin, so Stan is taking into account other things that he sees in the blood test to understand the hematocrit. And that's what you do with blood work. That's the key ingredient to getting blood work done in the first place. We don't just look at cholesterol. We don't just look at hematocrit. We take into consideration other factors, okay? So Stan looks at the platelets and the ferritin as well. They are normal, so he says he doesn't have thickening of blood or high iron. If I wanted to go donate some blood, which I love doing because it's just a nice thing to do in the first place, I could still do it just to make sure, right? Let's move into the cholesterol. Now my bun creatine levels were high. There's going to be certain things that are high on here, and Stan just basically alludes to the bun creatine levels being elevated, very normal for people that lift weights. Whoever does read your blood, if you do decide to go to Stan, I think that would be a great place to go. You can use him for consulting. All of his information is on stanefferding.com. He's going to give you a lot of nuts and bolts of exactly how you should handle it. But you do want to go to somebody that would be able to understand that you lift. Because if you lift, and if you lifted 2 or 3 days prior to getting your blood work done, a lot of your stuff's going to be really out of whack. If you lifted the day before, it could be really out of whack. If you lifted the day of, your blood work is going to be a nightmare. I've had that before, and my doctor was like, yo, what is going on here? And I was like, yeah, I didn't fast. And then he's like, but you didn't train. And I was like, well, I trained too, you know. So I trained and didn't fast in some previous blood work, and my thought was like, hey, let's just see what it looks like on a normal day when I do what I normally do. But apparently blood work does not work that way. So creatine levels were elevated, but there was no concern there as well. And as you can see, I don't have any problem sharing this. You can see all this here, okay? And you can see a lot of normal, right? So a lot of stuff in that normal range. And there's a couple things that are elevated. One is the hematocrit, and the other one is the bun creatine levels. In comparison to how my schoolwork looked as a kid, this is a really good report card, everybody. I only got 2 things wrong. Okay, moving on. Oh, now I got some red marks going. I don't even know if I should share some of this with you guys. Yeah, I'm not going to share this. It's too much. Should I share it anyway, Carlos? What do you think?
I think we have to. You owe it to the 20,000 people that follow you.
You know what? On this day, just this one time, I'm going to cut you guys some slack, and I'm going to share this out with you. I got 4 things on this sheet that are high, and I got 2 things that are low. Fuck. All right. So, cholesterol. I will openly say that I don't know much about this topic other than some stuff that I've skimmed over, and more recently I've lost a lot of interest in it as I have found that cholesterol is not all that related to heart disease. In fact, 50% of the people that go to the doctor that have had a heart attack, that show up to the hospital with a heart attack, 50% of them have bad cholesterol. What does that equation tell you? That the other 50% don't have bad cholesterol, right? So the good and bad and the this and that, like, it's not really a great indicator, although it still may be part of the puzzle, and I'm not going to deny that at all. Total cholesterol, this is from my lipid panel, is 232. The high end of that is anything above 139, and I'm at 233. So I'm like 100 points higher, right? And that gives me a red mark. That puts me on the high category, right? When it comes to triglycerides, my triglycerides are 30, and that's considered in a normal range from 0 to 149. I'm at 30. 232 versus 30 for the triglycerides. When it comes to HDL cholesterol, I'm at 54. When it comes to HDL cholesterol, I'm at 54. When it comes to VLDL, which is now starting to account for like the particle size, VLDL, which I hopefully I'm speaking correctly about, that's at 7. So the last three things that I read, the triglycerides, the HDL, and the VLDL, all of those have been in normal ranges. The last one, the LDL, is at 170. That one is about 70 points above where it should be, according to what's normal, okay? Insulin, okay? My insulin is at 2.7. The lowest it could be before it gets to like register as low is 2.6. What does that have to do with anything? Well, your insulin levels are massively important to the relationship of your cholesterol. Also, other markers for health, such as things like, this is called your C-reactive protein. This is very important as well to overall markers of your health. And the lower that it is, the better off that you are. And they believe this is a great indicator of being healthy. A normal range is 0 to 3. Mine is at 0.46. So let me just kind of say that again. A normal range for this and kind of a way to register on kind of the low side is to be under 1, and I'm at 0.46, which is actually very, considering what they have on this blood test, it's considered to be very, very good. Let's go to the source. Let's go to Stan Efferding. The lipids look great. Total and LDL cholesterol are not reliable predictors of cardiovascular disease. Triglyceride to HDL ratio is a far better indicator of MARC. MARCs is outstanding. Anything less than 2.1, along with C-reactive protein measurements, is very low risk. And if you want to look up more information about cholesterol, I'm going to put a link in here for you guys. You want to look at some of the work that has been done from Dave Feldman. Again, just happens to not be a doctor as well. I think he's an engineer. It appears that my risk for cardiovascular disease is not high in accordance to the blood work that we have in front of us, in accordance to my total cholesterol, and in accordance to my LDL cholesterol being elevated. Hopefully that's perfectly clear and we can kind of move on to the next thing. Here's where we have a little bit of issue. Thyroid looks really good. My TSH I've had a problem with in the past, which I apologize, I do not know what that is, but it's normal now. And I have low LH and low FSH. Other things were really good. Prolactin's good. Vitamin D was good. It can probably be a little better, probably a little higher, but it was 59.3, which is in the normal range. Everything else was fantastic. All the rest of the blood work is very normal, including the C-reactive protein, which I mentioned before. My estrogen is a little bit on the lower end. This is really cool. So my insulin levels are low, I mentioned that already, but like my magnesium, my potassium, all that stuff was perfect on a carnivore diet. Where am I getting potassium from? I'm getting it from meat. I'm getting plenty of potassium. I'm getting plenty of sodium. Remember, I eat salt, right? So, salt is going to be something that can help you hold on to magnesium, help you hold on to potassium. It's something that's really beneficial, and so I make sure that I salt a lot of my foods. Kind of in conclusion here, Stan mentions, he says he has a few thoughts in case I'm experiencing any level of fatigue. And again, here we go. I'm not afraid to share everything with you. If I'm experiencing any levels of fatigue or loss of libido, and he says maybe in consideration to his busy schedule and how often I train, maybe some of that's knocked down. And actually, you know what? Sometimes that's true. Like sometimes I train so much that I just don't even want it anymore, which is weird for me because normally I want it all the time, right? However, I've been really good with both energy levels and I've been good with libido. But Stan says that he has noticed in many individuals when the testosterone and free testosterones are normal for TRT, sometimes when the estrogen levels are low to moderate, sometimes he'll have clients who have better results with slightly elevated estrogen. It helps bring up their libido because too low of estrogen, even in men, is not good, is not necessarily healthy. His main thing, though, was to really hone in and try to focus in on sleep. And he recommended that I get a sleep apnea machine Not so much based off of like just the blood work, but just based off of him knowing me. He knows I've had a bad experience with a sleep apnea machine in the past. He also knows that more recently on the carnivore diet, I've been adding a little bit of weight by adding in some milk and by adding in some cream. And then I just told you guys more recently, I added in another shot of testosterone to just help be a little bit bigger, help bring up those levels, because in talking to my doctor and in talking to Stan, they said, hey, you're totally fine being between like 1,200 and like 1,600 for your testosterone. So they're like, if you want to bump it up and be a little bigger and be a little stronger, you can go ahead and do that. Optimal thyroid function, insulin's really good. Stan recommended some ZMA, which is just a supplement. He thought that might be helpful. He also talked a lot about things that can impair sleep. Alcohol impairs sleep even though you feel like you slept better. Melatonin impairs sleep even though it might knock you out faster. Ambien impairs sleep. CBD impairs sleep. Basically anything that you think is for sleep F's you up. And it's not good. It's not healthy for you. It's not a good idea. You have to figure out a way to get sleep and to get to sleep on your own. If you want to find out more information about how to sleep, how to get to sleep, how to stay to sleep, you want to know everything and anything about sleep, check out Matthew Walker. You can just simply check out Joe Rogan's podcast and you can YouTube it, but you might want to take a deeper dive into it and you might want to look at what he has to offer in his book. And so there you go. There's a compilation of my blood work. There's some good information for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know if there's anything it can do for you guys in terms of any other questions that you have about blood. I can call up any of my friends, I can get them on the horn, and I can video the conference call, and we can show everything and anything that you guys want to know. So please don't hesitate. We can look into stuff as deep as you want. Last, I want to finish with this. So in conversations with a few of my friends, there's a little debate back and forth, but with one of my friends, I asked him flat out, I said, can you cause disease and can you do damage by overeating on a carnivore diet or by overeating on a keto diet? And he felt that it would be harder to overeat consistently and constantly, and so therefore you most likely wouldn't do any damage because you wouldn't be able to do it for long enough. However, the rest of the group kind of said, I kind of have this group chat amongst some really high-level friends. The rest of the group kind of agreed, look, if you could commit to overeating even on a carnivore diet, that you could do damage. So I want everybody to understand that there's no free lunch, quote unquote. You can't just completely be oblivious to how much you eat. At some point, that's going to need to be accounted for. I'm not a tracker. I don't weigh stuff. I much less just take a sledgehammer and smash the shit out of those food scales that I see. I don't like tracking it. I don't want other people to track it. Not a fan of it. However, it can be effective for some people. And just because you don't want to count stuff, because maybe I don't like to count stuff, doesn't mean that it doesn't count. It always counts. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch y'all later.